Hey everyone, Bandit here. You're all following me on Twitter, right? Yeah, of course you are. Link is in the description below. Well, if you recall, a few days ago, I had tried to summon news on Breath of the Wild sequel for the 2021 Game Awards. But, alas, it seems I didn't use enough summon juice, because the Game Awards, which streamed live this past Friday to fans all over the world, has come to an end. And lo and behold, it did not hold any new information for the Legend of Zelda franchise. Much less the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Much less anything Nintendo for that matter, except for a few Nintendo Switch ads, which each gave me a huge heart attack every time I heard that. Even though the current president of Nintendo, Doug Bowser, and the former president, Reggie the Man, were both present and even on the stage at different times in the event, ultimately their appearances were simply to claim the best action-adventure game for Metroid Dread, which was amazing, and present one of the category's winners. And that was it. Everything else was kind of... But I believe that the lack of Nintendo or Zelda anything present at the Game Awards is actually a good thing, and could mean that we have huge things in store coming up soon when you look at the big picture. And speaking of the big picture, news about the sequel is so big at this point that I can't cover this alone. My dear little bandits, please welcome once again to the channel the one and only Konrad from the Commonwealth Realm. Take it away, sir.
Hi everyone, good to be back on M&B. Be sure to check out the other part of this collaborative video, a proper Zelda theory that's live right now on my channel after finishing up here. Anyway, I want to first briefly point out and explain the elephant in the room regarding Zelda news at TGA this past Friday. No, Nintendo did not promise or even hint that anything would be happening at the event. So why were there so many people expecting news, you might be wondering? Well, the misled expectations actually did not come from Nintendo themselves, but rather from a combination of two main factors. One, Nintendo of America's Bill Trinen, who told IGN in an interview this past June that they would be, quote, starting to show a bit more of the game over the coming months to the next year or so, with the coming months in 2021 being the key takeaway from this quote. 2. Jeff Keighley, aka the Game Award man himself, said that there would be a game development reveal that had been worked on for 2.5 years. And most Zelda fans already know that pretty much exactly 2.5 years have passed since the day the first trailer for Breath of the Wild 2 was dropped and subsequently shattered the internet with overloads of hype. With these two factors present in everyone's minds, in addition to Nintendo's strange overall silence regarding Zelda's 35th anniversary this year, it didn't take long for people to begin to place their hopes in the Game Awards, which is the final large gaming event of the year. Of course, we know that it all meant nothing in the end. That being said though, this lack of information about the game is actually typical of Nintendo's recent development cycle. I mean, does anyone even remember Metroid Prime 4 at this point? They have definitely decided to keep most of their projects completely under wraps in recent years, choosing instead to randomly reveal large new games in their own standalone Nintendo Direct presentations. So honestly, Nintendo's lack of presence at the Game Awards was quite predictable if you look at it objectively.
Well, since we know that Zelda's not being at the Game Awards doesn't necessarily mean anything bad about the sequel's release date or timeline, let's ask the other question now. Does it mean anything good? Like I said at the start of this video, I think it does. Quite a bit, actually. Ask yourself, in what stage of development is the sequel to Breath of the Wild currently? Can we tell what stage it's in? You might be tempted to say that there's no way of possibly knowing for sure, and you'd be partially right. But remember that Nintendo revealed a new trailer to us this summer that featured, for the first time, a release date for the game? Well, a release year. Man, we have a release year but no name. Isn't that wild? Anyway, you don't need to know that much about video game development to know that they normally take multiple years to develop. And within those years, as you could imagine, there is a whole lot going on. But games have been around now for many decades. The game development pattern has been studied and scrutinized and simplified for us little people to understand, and it usually inhabits 7 overarching steps, with the last 3 steps happening after the game releases. If we take this development timeline graph as an example, we can see that since we've been able to watch some trailers and hype building pieces of media about Breath of the Wild 2, it must then be in the 4th developmental stage, pre-launch. In this stage, the game has already been built. It's already gone through vigorous Nintendo quality levels of testing and even has some alpha builds sent out to quality assurance testers. What this all means is that by the time we the fans start to see trailers and other forms of marketing about a game, the game itself is literally one step away from launching to the public, at least generally speaking. And with Breath of the Wild 2, we got the 2nd marketing trailer this year.
In addition to the developmental patterns, we're able to observe a as fans, there are also the pattern that Nintendo has previously taken when developing the first Breath of the Wild. According to some sources, the game could have started its planning phase as early as the release of Skyward Sword in 2011. With it then releasing in 2017, we can assume that the entire development cycle for Breath of the Wild took about 5-6 years in total, and next year it will be 2022. 5 years after Breath of the Wild's release. So if we follow patterns, Nintendo should have been able to build an entire other world of the same size and variability as Breath of the Wild's Hyrule since 2017, and I think they have indeed done just that. Now, what does this mean in light of no Zelda content at the Game Awards? Well, logically, I think it means that Nintendo is in this pre-launch stage of development for the sequel, and that Nintendo already has plans on when and how it will reveal the next bit of information about the game, and ultimately release it to the public. They must have heard enormous amounts of chatter online about fans expecting to hear something about Zelda. After all, it was trending on Twitter like 10 times or so. I think Nintendo could even pull what would be the ultimate hype and sale building move and choose to finally reveal the title for the sequel at the same time they release it to the public. Or perhaps just reveal the finalized release date. Now if only we know what the title of the game might be, but I'm getting ahead of myself. That's what our other video is about, so please feel free to check it out when this one ends in just a few minutes.
So to summarize this video in a couple of sentences, basically what we're trying to say is that it was disappointing that there was no Zelda at the Game Awards, but it actually wasn't Nintendo's fault this time. On the other hand, it could actually mean that Nintendo is in complete control and has some sort of brilliant professional developer plan for releasing the game in the next year, in a way that will build even more hype than we've ever seen before, even in 2019. And it could be closer than we think, which ultimately led to them deciding not to talk about it at the Game Awards. To be honest with you, I think that given the previous pattern of Nintendo Directs, we could be looking at a January to February Direct, which would of course be revealed to the public probably 1 or 2 days before it goes live, you know, in classic Nintendo fashion. And if the speculations of this video are true, that means that Nintendo has big Zelda-shaped things in store. But until then, we've just got to remember to keep our hopes in check and hype responsibly, because nobody wants to be let down, even after watching this prediction video. And I'm preaching to myself there too, but hey, that's just our theory about what's going to happen or what's currently happening at the Big N. What do you guys think? Does Nintendo have a genius plan to reveal new information about Breath of the Wild soon? Or did they just miss out on a big opportunity to score some awesome viewage for the game and will now have to do some damage control for disappointing their fans and killing some of the hype? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, thank you so much for watching, and a huge thanks to Konrad from Commonwealth Realm for joining me on this one. As he mentioned earlier, there is the sequel, if you will, to this video over on his channel that's live right now. Take that, Nintendo, so please check it out via the description below. And be sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed our predictions, and subscribe if you haven't already to stick around for so many more interesting gaming videos to come. Huge thanks as always to my Bandit crew who make my day every single day. That's all I've got in this one, so as always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. This is Mass Nintendo Bandit, looking forward to seeing you next time, and signing out. Peace!